Hello my friends, I'm Larson and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today we're talking more on the ever important body position, specifically pertaining to obstacles. The specifics of this video is something I constantly harp on during my private lessons. These are also things I wish I would have known when I first started riding. My understanding of these movements have 100% changed my riding, and I believe they'll change yours as well. Now, before we get too deep, we did a hard enduro specific body position video that I recommend you watch first. You can check that out right here. Today's video is the advancement of your body position. You first need to have the full understanding and habit of that hips back attack position. Being able to hinge at the fulcrum point of your body is imperative for these techniques. That movement is where we find efficiency in nearly every situation. Now be prepared, we're once again about to get annoyingly in depth. Now it doesn't matter if you ride high-speed motocross, single track trails, hard enduro, trials, or even play on one obstacle all day. Our body position dictates the movement of our bike. So how can we break down this position so you can apply it to your everyday riding? When we really get into the specifics of movement and body position, first, I want everyone to understand your movement on the bike is always at a disadvantage. The average dirt bike weighs close to 250 pounds. The average person doesn't weigh that much, and if you do, most bikes have more than enough horsepower to throw you completely off, no matter how much you weigh or where you are on the bike. This is so important to understand. It's in your movement that we find counteraction. Now, I've mentioned this before, but simplified, your front end comes up, the weight in your hips comes forward. Your front end goes down, the weight in your hips goes back. The centered attack position puts us in the best position on the bike to make those adjustments as needed. Now, this is all somewhat common sense. Of course, we've heard a lot of the best Moto teachers breaking this exact technique down. But going back to a statement I made that's probably a little less obvious, you are always at a disadvantage. Now, what do I mean by this? If you're trying to react to what your bike is doing, you're probably already behind. You're late. Of course, that proper hips back body position puts us in the best advantage to react. But truthfully, most of what I do is in preemptive movement. This understanding changed the game for me. The way we find the maximum advantage to our disadvantage is in preemptive movement, anticipatory movement. We take action with the weight in our hips. Simplified, I know, and I'm sure most of you know, if I increase my throttle and release my clutch, my bike not only moves forward, the front end naturally wants to come up. The way we counteract this front end coming up is by bringing our weight forward. But this doesn't mean starting with our weight forward. Once again, these machines have more than enough power to throw you off the back, no matter where you are on the machine. You could put your weight all the way forward before you move, but the bike still has the power to wheelie over. This is where we learn a very counterintuitive lesson. In whatever way your machine is moving, for instance, the front end coming up or the front end dropping down, the further your weight is in the assisting direction, the more you can move your weight in the opposing direction, maximizing your counteraction. Now, I know there's a lot to what I just said. Rewind the video, listen again, remember that lesson. Let's unpack that and break it down. Again, this is all about counteracting what your machine is doing. The reason this lesson is so counterintuitive is due to where your beginning weight is. When first applying this, it's going to feel wrong. The weight in your hips is in the assisting direction. What do I mean by assisting? Well, if your front end is going to come up and the intention is to counteract that, you must first begin with your weight where it would assist that upward direction if left there. So if the front end is going to come up, you're starting with your weight back. The further back your weight is, the more we can drive our weight forward in the opposing direction to counteract the front end as it comes up. It's also vice versa for the front end dropping down. If the front end is going to drop, we start with our weight forward, so we can then drive our hips back to again oppose and counteract. The further your weight is in either direction, the more it can move in the opposing direction, causing the maximum reaction to your machine. The best example of this maximization of movement is demonstrated on single obstacles. Whether it be a double blip, zap, stuff and smash, or splatter, notice the assisting and opposing directions of my weight centered in my hips. Now, to take this one step further, we get more into preemptive movement. I've repeated the word action a few times. Taking action, counteraction. This means you are first to move. The common mistake I see is usually riders being behind the movement of their bike. They try driving their weight back or forward as their bike is already moving down or up. This puts them again at a disadvantage. We focus on taking that preemptive action and movement to maximize the reaction to our machine. This is best demonstrated with the stuff and smash technique. My goal here is to prevent my machine's front tire from lifting too much as I attempt the obstacle with no momentum. Remember, the less momentum, the more extreme movement is required. Notice first the beginning weight in the assisting position, all the way back. The load on the engine is applied, but before I release the clutch, I begin to take action with the preemptive movement, driving my hips and weight forward. Once the beginning of the movement forward is established with my body, I then release the clutch, allowing the machine to catch up with my body's forward momentum. At the point of synced action between my body and machine, we then see a switch in my body's movement back over the rear tire to again counter the now dropping front tire. This is all preemptive action and reaction with my body's position. Once again, this is applicable for any style of riding. Notice the similarities between a motocross whoop section and a double blip. The same hips back focus and preemptive movement is required. Any style of riding is bettered by an anticipatory understanding and preemptive counteraction. We take action first with our hips to maximize our control and advantage over our machine. I hope this increases your understanding of what I do to find comfort, efficiency, and success in my riding. And of course, if you're enjoying the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as follow us on Instagram at IRC Moto and my personal Instagram page at RichLarson511. And until next time, keep shredding.